Okay, so I'm sure you already know how to multiply polynomials, but this is just a quick review. So last semester we mostly did FOIL, so we did a binomial times a binomial, but FOIL doesn't work when you have a binomial times a trinomial because you've got 5 terms instead of just 4 terms. So one way you can do it is to make a chart like this, and you can put the 2 terms down here and the 3 terms across. It doesn't really matter. You could also put the 3 terms down here and the 2 across. And you just multiply each one and fill in each box. Okay, so for example, don't forget to also multiply the coefficient. So this would be 9b to the third. This would be negative 3b squared c. This would be negative 6b c squared right here. Negative 6b squared c right here. This is going to become positive because it's a negative and a negative. So positive 2bc squared. And then these two, it's going to be 4c to the third. Okay, so when I wrote them, I always write them in alphabetical order just so everybody's writing the same thing. So notice if I had a b and a c, I put the b first. So I'm going to look and see if there's any like terms I can combine. So b cubed, b squared c. Look, I have 2 here. This b squared c can be combined with that b squared c. Then I have bc squared and bc squared. Those can be combined. Okay, so since I can't really put it in standard form when I have 2 different variables, I'll just choose one of the variables. So I'm going to choose b. I'm going to put it in standard form based on b. So I'm going to start with 9b to the third. And since these have b squared, I have negative 6 and negative 3, so that's going to be negative 9. And then here I just have a b, so 2 and negative 6 is going to be negative 4. And then 4c cubed, that can't be combined. So I went ahead and put it in standard form using the b, so b to the third, b to the second, b, and then this one doesn't have any b. And then we know that it has 4 terms here, and it is in as close as I can to standard form because it has 2 different variables. Now you could also do this by the distributive property and just take this term and multiply it by all 3, and then I could take this term and multiply it by all 3, but be really careful that you're actually taking the negative here. So it's negative 2c times that, and then negative 2c times negative bc, and times that. So just be careful. I've seen sometimes when students use this method and just try to distribute it, they get messed up with the signs. By making it in a chart and actually putting the signs with it, it makes it a lot easier to keep everything organized. But either method is fine with me, whichever one that you feel the most comfortable with. Okay, so let's try this again. Now, if we have 3 terms by 3 terms, the same thing. So it's fine if you just use the distributive property. So you would take x squared times all 3 of these, negative 4x times all 3, and 1 times all 3, and then combine like terms and write your answer in standard form. But I find an easier method to me is just to put it in a chart so I can keep everything organized and to make sure I keep the signs correct. So notice I put the negative with the 4x here, so I remember that this term is negative. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the chart. Alright, so my chart's filled in. Now I'm going to write it in standard form. So I see my highest term is x to the 4th. Then I do all of my thirds, so I have those 2. So a positive 5 and a negative 4, that's just 1. Alright, then I look for all my x squared, and they are right here. So I have negative 2 and negative 20, that's negative 22, and a positive 1, so negative 21 x squared. Then here's my x's. 5 and 8 is 13. And then minus 2. So my lead coefficient here is 1. I have it in standard form. And my highest degree is 4, so this is a degree of 4. All right, let's try another one. So let's say you get something like this. Let's say it's x plus y raised to the third power. So what you are not going to do, remember, a lot of you made this mistake last semester, and we don't want to make this mistake. Do not just say the answer is x to the third, y to the third, because that's not what it means. So first you're going to write it out in expanded form. So write out all three of them because you need to multiply this together 3 times. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with the first two binomials. So multiply these two together, and you're going to get this. So that should look like a perfect square trinomial to you because you have the first term squared, the second term squared, and the middle term is 2ab. In this case, it's x and y's. So I multiply those two together, and now I have one binomial, the one that's left, times the trinomial. So I'm just going to use the distributive property method because it's pretty easy because I just have an x. So I'm going to multiply x by each of these. So that's going to be x to the third, 2x squared y, xy squared, and now I'm going to multiply y by everything. So this is going to be okay, now I'm going to look back and see if I can combine anything. I have 2x squared y, and look here, I have an x squared y here, and I have an x squared y here. Now again, make sure you're taking the signs with them, and this I made it pretty easy because everything's positives, but just make sure you're always taking the sign with it. And then I have an xy squared and an xy squared. So I can combine those, so I'm going to put x to the third, and then I have 3x squared y, and then I have one of these and two of these, so that's 3xy squared plus y cubed. Again, so whenever you have more than one variable, put them in alphabetical order. So each time I put x, y, x, y, and then put it in descending order of the one that's highest up in the alphabet. So x comes before y. So I did x to the third, x squared, x. And then I just put them in order from that. So there is my final answer. All right, so let's try one more. This was raised to the third power. Let's say, what will we do if I asked you to do 3x plus 1 raised to the fourth power? So first of all, we're going to write it out in expansion, and we're going to write it out 4 times. And then personally, I think the easiest way to do this is just split it in half. So I multiply this, and I get this perfect square trinomial here. I get 9x squared plus 6x plus 1. And I'm multiplying the exact same thing here, so I'm going to get the exact same answer. And now I have a trinomial times a trinomial, and so for me, I'm going to make a chart. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in this chart. And I just wrote 36 here, but 9 times 6 is actually 54. So let's fix that. And then 6 times 6 would be 36x squared. Alright, so I filled in all my things here. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So I have 81x to the fourth. And I can see my x to the third are both right here. So I had 9 times 6 in both of these. So I add those together. Then I can see all of my squared terms are here. So I have 9, 36, and 36. So that would be 36 plus 18. So 54. Add together my x's. So 12x. Alright, so when I actually do 3x plus 1 to the fourth, I actually come out with this answer that's 81x to the fourth, 108x to the third, plus 54x squared, plus 12x, plus 1. So remember, always combine your like terms and write your answer in standard form, where you put the highest degree first. So this would be a 4th degree, and my lead coefficient is 81, and then I put them in descending order.